All right, ladies and gentlemen. Owned. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm back, and now I'm actually audible. I was very quiet because I was doing some voice acting earlier for an as of yet unannounced project. But we're back. We're here. What's up, guys? How's everybody doing? Hope y'all are well. And you know how it is. You know how it be in the house, working on Xibalba, moving some stuff around that I should have moved around earlier. And yeah. Okay, so obviously we're going to be working a little bit on some various things. We're going to be working on mechanics. We're going to be working on a bunch of stuff. There's not really a huge amount of things to cover here at this point. I think for the most part, we will be firing up Visual Studio Code again, as loath as I am. What? Yeah, sure. Thanks. I am the author of this file, so pretty good prank, IMO. Okay. Get our chats in order. So, today is a day where we work on some stuff for the Ansifii. I actually haven't worked on this recently because the updates to Antikythera were where I spent most of my time yesterday. So, between the previous stream and the current one, we don't actually have a massive amount of updates to like the website or anything. Get pull. Just go ahead and close this. Apparently, holding on to the file was enough to break it, so it was pretty good. Yeah, so let's go back into this. I'll show people what's going on. So I go ahead and rebuild the solution. I don't know what's up with this. This is probably just Visual Studio being stupid. Is it built fine? Classic. So obviously, this doesn't look any different, right? However, it launches faster, and we are using PNGs instead of BMPs. So that is the key difference. And I was able to make it so that everything was taken care of. This is the. Oh, this is interesting. I didn't know that this existed. So apparently, if you hit G, you get the collision, right? But you also get the unit name, which is pretty interesting. Useful. I don't think I pre-placed any Wendigos, so that explains that. But if you keep going through this, you can see that we have some UI stuff. It's very large now compared to what it was. But, you've got all of these widgets. Theoretically, you'd be able to place this stuff. It tracks like what you've got selected, which is pretty good. And yeah, and then it goes back to here. So all in all, pretty good progress. But the PNG asset port was my main focus yesterday, so I didn't do conceptual stuff, and that is what we are going to do today. So let us do that. I would like to mention again that it was hilarious that I walked up to my is it U-stamp? Yeah, I walked up to this file the other day and immediately found like usable terms for things like unit names and stuff. I was very surprised. I don't know. Something about that was really funny to me. That like it just never. It didn't occur to me to check the other file full of potential unit names that I specifically designed so that I would have a bunch of unit names to draw upon. Ha. Some of these are not actually usable because some of them are related to mythology, but that's okay because I know which ones those are, and if I'm ever unsure, I can obviously look them up. But I also know that there are some that are just like straight up consistent, like fine words to use. In general, I think we're going to have we obviously want to stay away. There's a couple of things, right, about names that we want to establish very early on. So we want the name to obviously mean something that is connected to the unit without directly telling you what the unit does, like with no uncertain terms, right? So it's the same in any writing. You don't want to legislate what the point of the writing actually is. You want to lead people in the correct general direction and let them figure out more, right? So it's almost like a teaser in some ways, and it's setting expectations, but it's not defining what the actual end result is. So that's what we want to do with names. When we're doing this stuff with names, we are also expecting to have a lot of stuff that's very arcane and difficult to parse for most people, because we're dealing with stuff that's very difficult to parse for most people in a conceptual level. But Ansifii are not that. So for Ansifii, it makes a lot more sense to deal with stuff that is a little bit more tame, a little bit more understandable, familiar, terms that generally describe when you're not dealing with some, horrid, really difficult thing to grasp, right? So that's why we want all of our stuff to feel kind of what's the term, like, we want it to feel somewhat domestic, conventional. We don't want it to be too out there. And we want it to also sound appropriate for the kind of unit that it is. And that's something that we are always going to need to sort of jockey back and forth, right? Now, for the other regencies, once I define some core characteristics about the units, the unit names and stuff, and what I want from them, it'll actually be a lot easier for me to come up with stuff that's like not familiar, because I have less actual restrictions. For something to be familiar to humans in a universe where there are no humans, which is what that's the Ansifii issue, right? Is that, or the circumstances. I have to find stuff that does not pertain to mythology or some sort of proper noun. Like a classic example of this in book writing is like, she put her feet up on the ottoman, but there is no Ottoman Empire, so the ottoman as a piece of furniture wouldn't be called that, and they still call it that. Some people apologize for this. I would just call it laziness, but some people apologize for that by saying like, oh, it's the book is written by a translator who is translating things from one universe to ours. But that just breaks immersion. It doesn't really, like, that. Then you're failing to translate, accurately or efficiently. So I wouldn't do that. What's up, Balefell? But I have to basically I have to find words that make sense in English that describe the unit, but I can't hit on any proper nouns, anything related to mythology or religion, anything related to like something that isn't just a generic term. Now, if you go far back enough in etymology, every word is something from maybe not mythology or religion, but from some human culture. I can't use something that's like obviously taken from another language. I have to use something that's related to English, because that's like the conventional, that would be like the common language or whatever if you had to poll people. So stuff like that just makes the most sense. And that's fine. But so, obviously I'm looking through these, and like examples are, I could use something like iconoclast or maven or, herald, emissary, something like that. But I wouldn't want to use banshee. I wouldn't want to use manticore. I wouldn't want to use like, what's the term? I'm looking through the rest of these. Actuary is fine. I wouldn't want to use anything related to mythology, obviously, but I also wouldn't want to use something that's like Roadhog is another example where I have to rename that unit. And Roadhog is, obviously, it's related to a road, which is fine because road is like convention. That's an understandable word for any culture, really. But hog is specifically a unit, like it's not a unit. It's a, you know what I mean. It's something where it's like an animal in our plane of existence. So you can't be doing that. Avelthal's dropped me this link here. I will throw this in my resources folder and come back to it at some point. Yes, it's an earth creature. We can't have something that's literally earth. Like, I would never want to name something about like a wolf or something. But I might use hound, because hound is kind of a concept of like a bestial creature that pursues you. So is that is hound safe territory? I'm not sure, right? I would say Hellhound is a little bit stepping over the line. Hound is like right at the line. It's hard to know which side of it actually falls. Hellhound over the line. It's a mythological creature, and it's referencing like an animal, an earth creature, hound. But it's like the concept of that, as opposed to it's being a specific breed. So yeah, I don't know about that one. Hound might be a little bit more acceptable. I probably still wouldn't do it just to err on the side of caution, but that's like something where it's like, okay, maybe that makes sense. So it's like a bit of a complicated issue, right? Yes, because even the English language is specific to Earth, right? So yeah, you've hit on it there pretty well. So a lot of it will probably be decided by feel, but because I could go a step further and I could just come up with like Ansifii homeworld etymology and stuff and be like, here's what their language would sound like and like make a custom language for them and stuff, right? The problem is that doesn't actually satisfy the goal of them being familiar, the goal of them being a nice onboarding regency to play as and to understand. Like these guys are going to be in the tutorial. They're going to be the tutorial regency. So because of that, I have to make sure that everything is good to go. So yeah. Although I'm still not 100% sure about that because there is going to be a tutorial a tutorial mission, I think, where you play as an Ember Seat character, which is a bit of a it's going to be a bit whiplashy, I think. Where this is your I've never used a mouse and keyboard before tutorial. Like if you've never played an RTS game before and you're not very familiar with mouse and keyboard, then yeah, odds are maybe you should play that tutorial. And I'm not gonna make it like super elaborate. It'll probably just be one mission, and it'll literally just be like, let's go through the ropes here. We got a small map. You got some dummy enemies. You got some units you can select. You'll be introduced to the concept of economy and like some of the core concepts of the game, but also the control scheme. And then, all right, good enough. Let's get out of here. I got like 10 other dudes to train, so hurry up. Like a taskmaster type character will be just like very dismissive with how he is. He's just like, oh, God damn it, I have to train so many of you. Like he's just tired with his job. And then you go into the proper tutorial, and I would just imagine, I would hope most people just skip that tutorial, the Ember Seat one, because like, why the fuck are you, why are you playing this game if you've never played using a mouse and keyboard before? What's wrong with you? I'll have to come up with funny names for the mouse and keyboard so as to preserve immersion. Where he'll talk about like your control unit. Because I still do want to try to preserve immersion, but it's going to be a bit tough. I still don't understand why it's even called a mouse. Maybe somebody knows. Why is it called a mouse? It doesn't look like a mouse. It doesn't even sound like a mouse. It never sounded or looked like a mouse. I guess if it sounded like a mouse, it's because you need a new one, not because I don't know. I can't yet fathom why that was the case. That's goofy. Goofballs. All right, so I do kind of want to plan out some campaign content and some mission content. Maybe we'll do that even today. Because I want to make a first of all, this page here, Cosmonarchy. This page has to be Cosmonarchy Brood War. So like hyphen BW. And I have to make a custom Cosmonarchy page that then has like a little link there that says like, oh, if you're looking for this. You can't type on YouTube. You're a fraud. Get out of here. Oh, wait, you're not a fraud? Oh, wait, no, it's you with the wrench. It is the real you. That doesn't show up on my fucking Restream client. So. Owned. That's a good way to confuse people. If they're not looking at the chat on screen and they're just looking at the YouTube chat, just like send half of your fucking message. All right. So let's talk some shit. I still wasn't really sure if anything extra needed to be added to the Ansifii, but since we were just talking about names, I think it would actually behoove us to write a little bit about the names themselves. All right, so we already did this. We haven't. Oh yeah, we actually haven't done that yet. Yes, second monitor unlocks a lot for you. You'll very much appreciate it when you get access to it. Let's see, it looks like we need to shift the camera over a bit. There we go. So, what did we do yesterday? PNG, or no, it was BMP, PNG overhaul, and then it was like a dev call, and then stream. Okay. I don't always update this list because I have another list that I use for every little thing. To be honest, I just threw it in there because it was cool. Ansifii. It's kind of the same as the first I, though, in terms of how it's pronounced. But that's also, I've just been pronouncing it very fast these days. I haven't settled on pronunciation for all of the regencies yet. If you look at some of these, like, I'm not sure if Bithrantir or Bithrantir sounds better. I actually have no fucking preference right now. Orlithray is pretty obvious. Rune's pretty obvious. Dalventhos is pretty obvious. Oros is pretty obvious. Like, most of these are actually pretty solid. Like, Makreldas, Keltar, Githrovin, Embracy. Like, I say all of those, Roselium. The only way Roselium could be different is if the H was supposed to make it a long A, and it was Razelium. Which maybe I would even sometimes accidentally say, to be honest. I don't know. But for the most part, I've just been saying Roselium, as if it was R-U-H instead of R-H-A. Nadarasatha is pretty stable. Gadamemter, Omindris. Yeah, I guess the only one I haven't settled on is Bithrantir. Bithrantir versus Bithrantir. Because there's Katithron, Thruk, Avot, Psychora, Omindris, Kolopoazos. So yeah. When I say I haven't settled on all of them, I mean literally there's only one that I haven't settled on. I think Bithrantir is like the more... It seems the more natural one. It's the one I've said more frequently, the longer I've been familiar with the concept. But Bithrantir also has a more fantastical element to it for some reason. A nice ring. I'll probably just end up defaulting to Bithrantir, though. Where you place the emphasis. I was thinking, I even had this concept, right? Because especially for people who are English as a second language speakers, but also for people who, just in general, like anybody, you would look at some of these names and be like, how the fuck do I pronounce that? So I was thinking that when you lock in your selection of your Regency in multiplayer, it would actually have this, like, you know, deep voiced announcer or something going, Bithrantir. You know, like, Ansifii. It's like, oh, okay, well, he said it, so now I know how to say it. And if I still mispronounce it now that I've heard it said every time I select it in multiplayer, I'm the idiot. Okay, as long as we all agree on that. Now, I guess it might be that nobody plays. To avoid the announcer, you would have to avoid co-op, multiplayer, and custom content, because the selection would all be there, the selection sound, unless you just disabled it in settings. And then to avoid it on top of that, you'd have to avoid single player content, because they would say, like, oh, we got Ansifii over here. You know, like, they would say it in dialogue. So, like, for sure, there's no way to avoid it unless you just don't play the game. In which case, you're a goofball. Why are you talking about the races if you don't play? Noob. All right. So I wanted to note mechanics for construction. I want to work on Ansifii, and I wanted to create the page, like I mentioned here. But I also want to naming conventions for Ansifii. So I'm not sure exactly what kind of themes that I want to go for, but I figured just writing these down would be appropriate. So we can just jump down here and then we'll just say naming conventions. So I know that Ansifii are designed to be familiar to new players. and will generally be the least weird of all regencies. Hi, Veek. I'm already up to date and already showed it, noob. Owned. Unless you didn't push, because I just hit poll and it says already up to date. Because I was showing it off saying that I was I was looking at I was making note of the graphics and saying that I did the BMP to PNG conversion. So if I had to describe the naming conventions currently, I actually don't feel like we have a massive I don't feel like we have a massive thing yet for like a very coherent thing. Oh shit. How do I resize it? I guess I have to hold a shift or something. Control, Alt, right click. Oh, I have to use the one on the bottom right. Okay. Check me out, dude. I like how I can just keep scrolling off infinitely. That's probably something that needs to be fixed. Okay, cool. Well, I've put it in a pretty tough spot to actually select now. Epic. Oh, wow. Put it in a tough spot no matter what. Oh, I think I broke it. Oh, never mind. Yeah, pretty good. Good work. I mean, eventually we'll have to make it an actual dock, I think, but we'll see. All right, where were we? I already know what the name of one of the units I want to make. But, let's see. Many names will be made from 2 or more smaller words, and several names will be themed. We'll say, and some tiers will be themed in part. Yeah, it's not gonna. That thing is not gonna be final exactly. Okay, so I've written down that we have some names that are meant to be like multiple other words crammed together in some cases. Like an obvious case would be strong arm. Whatever Roadhog turns into will probably be like that. Soft spot is an example. Sightline, although I guess sightline is its own thing, obviously. Path sign. Cloudburst. I guess Iron Vault technically counts, but it's not one word, so it's a bit different. Safe Houses and Weather Vane are both their own things. Octagon is a pretty good name, to be honest. I hope that doesn't end up. I mean, I don't know. That might violate the whole idea of like not being Earth centric, because does it really make sense that octagons would be arenas in another culture? I don't know. Maybe there's something. Maybe there's something unique about the shape of an octagon that makes it very good for fighting. I don't know. Do I look like I know what I'm talking about? I might even move this up as a production structure instead of a text structure. I guess we'll find out. All right. Yeah, what other naming conventions do we have? We talked about tiered or themed. Circle or donut. Nah, donut is actually Earth-centric. Ansifii are big, but they're not big because they eat donuts, okay? That's a human-only problem. I still can't believe I heard this. This is probably one of the very few times I'll talk about vaccines on this show, this development session stream thing. But I just find it amazing that some places were actually giving out donuts with your vaccine. Like, you're trying to tell them to protect their health, and then giving them a fucking donut? Like, give them a subscription to some fucking vitamin supplement or something. Like, why a donut? Jesus. What a disaster. Donuts. Oh, I can't look at that. That's a spoiler. What was I going to look at? Oh, yeah. This. All right, let's get our pavilion added, dude. All right. Oh, I have to rename this. Well, you can go check that if you want. I don't even look at YouTube chat anymore these days. No point. I'm not sure if I don't know if tier 5 is too early for the pavilion. Or maybe it should be tier 6. It might be tier 6, I think. Yeah, I think it has to be. I don't know, man. This unit might end up being tier 7, but I don't know. I think it's okay for something as high as up as tier 6 to have something like this, but we'll have to think about it. I'm still not 100% sure how we're going to tackle things like interacting with units while they're inside transports. I feel like it should be possible to issue orders to units inside transports. You just have to select them. And some units will be completely inside a transport. So you can like, I'm imagining something where, you know how if you are in Brood War, you can load a unit into a transport. And then you can, we'll just demonstrate this real quick. And take this unit and put it inside the transport. Then you can left click on it to unload it. Now I'm imagining that's actually a right click order and left clicking selects it. So right click to unload, left click to select, and then if you order it to move, it'll unload on its own. But you might be able to order it to do something, right? That way you could actually do something where you basically just you work through your thing, right? You basically work through your thing, and you don't have to worry too much about something like that happening. Where, oh, I can't use this unit's ability because it's in a transport, or something like that. That does mean units. I mean, it is a buff to transports, I guess, because if you have some sort of order that like is casting a spell or something, like you wouldn't be able to order stuff. Well, yeah, I guess you would have to unload the unit to actually satisfy an order. But it's like a buff to micromanagement, right? It's a buff to people being able to micromanage it. So that's pretty good. Okay, what are we doing now? I was gonna make the weapon. Firing at opponents would allow you to also cast spells, so I actually think that's really interesting as a mechanic. I guess we can note that down. Or if we go to mechanics, we find our transports section. There we go. Not sure about this. Cargo will also unload if its order's target is out of range. I'm not actually sure about that because obviously, like we wouldn't want that to happen for something that's like in like a target leaves and then like the unit automatically unloads and tries to chase the target or something. That would be pretty bad. But there's probably something here that would make sense where it's like if you're issuing a Psi Storm order, for example, while your High Templar's in a shuttle, then you should probably should he unload and fly there? I think maybe not. So yeah, we'll have to think about that. Okay. Transports. We'll say some transports are also garrisons and allow loaded cargo to fire. Cast abilities. I guess we could just say fire and cast abilities. Without leaving the transport. Okay. So we will go ahead and add this stuff to the page. Transports. Here we go. Okay. Suppose we could also do construction, but I'm not really sure if there's a point to currently writing about that, because it's not like we have custom construction rules, but maybe it should just be more broadly called like unit training, or maybe it would be construction and training, but that's something we can figure out later. Okay. Oh, yeah. Let me add that to the list here. If I go to transports. Okay, nice. So that's that. We also have the pavilion. All right. I'll just say that I did this for now, and then we will construction. Just note that down for later. So we obviously want to keep working on the Ansifii tech map, but I think for now I will actually do this Cosmonarchy page, and we'll come back to the Ansifii in a moment. This will take a little while, I think. So the first thing is we have to rename that folder to what you see here. Okay, so now we have to. I think I was shadowboxing how to do this, and I was thinking if we go to this folder and we find. Let me try to find some example. If I go to just this index, right? Cosmonarchy. Because a lot of this stuff should actually work fine, but we should replace this with that. Oh, no, I meant place in file. That way we obviously make sure that we're not... oh, good one. Apparently we didn't actually do this in all of the other files, which is hilarious. Seems a bit weird to me. Oh, it's called this, that's why. Okay, this we can take. We can take this and replace it with that. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Now I'm not actually sure about anything else here. Okay. I guess we'll see if there's something that breaks. Meanwhile, I will make actual Cosmonarchy file. We'll grab the index here. We'll call it. Obviously, we have to do Cosmonarchy. Cosmonarchy. The definitive real-time strategy experience. Okay. So we do want some sort of primer. Is okay, that should work. Is a real-time strategy game set in Xibalba. All right. So instead of opening up with game flow, we will. I mean, we could migrate the game flow over here from the main page. I guess that would actually make some sense, right? So we'll just say. We could take this and then find our Dreamhold index and throw this up over here. Okay, we can just delete this. All right, so this means that I have to go back into my Xibalba index and remove the game flow section because it's no longer necessary. And what else do we have here? Okay. I think besides the eventually fleshing out the primer, obviously, I think we're pretty good, to be honest. What do we got here? Try making new Cosmonarchy page. Oh, and I guess we should also add a link to the actual Brood War mod index that says something similar, where it should say, yeah, this. This is a mess of a format, to be honest. Okay. All right, let's see the damage. I'm guessing that some things are going to be fucked for sure. What did I do for this in Xibalba? Okay, I just didn't say anything. I didn't do anything. I'll have to flesh that out later. We have an unescaped eye somewhere. I actually don't know where the... Oh, it's right here. Fix eye. I can fix eye, but I can't fix you. Classic. Okay. So now if we look to this... Oh. Seems fine. That loads fine. Okay. I didn't see any immediate issues. I have to update my bookmarks. I'll overhaul the main page now. Pretty nice. I didn't have to actually like tear apart the whole site structure. I'll just update this with whatever I wrote in the Astral Omen, I think. There you go. All right, I think that's good enough. So I have made the page. Now I just need to actually define the control scheme, of course, which is a little bit more challenging. Insofar as I actually have to write stuff. Okay. Let me just also post that I have gone through this. Let's just go ahead and do that. All right, cool. That should cover all of that. So if I was going to try to draft some information about the here, we'll do Cosmonarchy, dream hold. There we go. Let's see what we actually... I wrote here, set in Xibalba. And now we can safely... Where are we? Go here and get rid of game flow. Okay. So we know we also want to go in here, and we want to say... this is... What is this? Control scheme. All right. Well, I've got a decent amount of writing ahead of me, so I will take this opportunity to BRB. All right, we're back. Back in action. The way it was meant to be. Okay, so let's draft some stuff here. What can we write about Cosmonarchy? Because I know I can transcribe some stuff from Dreamhold in here. All right, had to write some shit. So, where are we going from here? I've ported the Dreamhold stuff. That's fine. Let's talk about Cosmonarchy. It's a real-time strategy game set in Xibalba and made in the Antikythera engine. I can actually add the link to... Okay, cool. I should actually get Veek to tell me what needs to be changed about the Antikythera stuff. Because I think we're using C DLLs instead of C++, for example. And there's probably some other shit that we gotta figure out. All right. Anyway, that's less important. Should we openly state we are not interested in censorship? Yeah, well, that's the thing is you know what's really funny you mentioned that now is because earlier today I was thinking like, because I know a lot of Counter-Strike skins and even maps get updates to remove certain things that are persona non grata in China. And I was thinking like, holy shit, like this actually is... it's pretty fucked, you know what I mean? Like it's pretty insane that they just completely changed like art direction or elements of a story even. So it's not like we're gonna go the other way and fuck with the writing so that it includes China and we beat China because China's evil. Because that would also be corrupting the foundation of the story and the game and the experience, just to make a political statement. But I'm also not going to corrupt the foundation of the experience to adhere to censorship. China is a huge market. That's not something you can ever deny. But like there are entire regencies in Xibalba that are totally built around the idea of, you know, resurrecting corpses and, you know, skull iconography and stuff. Like there will be a lot of stuff that will not fly the Chinese censors. So that's something that, like, what are you going to do? Just not include those regencies in the game? Are you going to not include, like, you know, corpses of a certain kind, doodads of a certain kind in the game? Like, it's ridiculous. It's just, it's absurd on its face to change anything, but especially something so critical and far-reaching. Like, we can't have ghosts or something? Like, there's something against spirits as well as skeletons? It's just hilarious, so... yeah, there's a lot of stuff there that just like when it all adds up, it's amazing. So yeah, I don't think we need to openly state that, but I suppose the point you're getting at is some people are actually, what would you call it? Some people are actually fucked to the point where they assume it's a default. But I'm of the opinion that if I read that, again, like I'm coming from the perspective that that should be the default. You shouldn't be censoring your game for China. But you know, It's just one of those things where it's like, unfortunately, it is the way it is. You know what I mean? Like some people are going to take it differently. I would, if I read that though, I would think that somebody was signaling for brownie points because they didn't do something really obviously dumb, which is not like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, don't even bother. You know what I mean? Hey, this page existing means I can start planning campaign content. That's pretty exciting. We'll say it's immersive missions, respect the player's time, and only leveraging only mechanics and scenarios that reinforce real-time strategy gameplay. It's cooperative missions challenge all parties in, we'll say all players, well, we'll just say challenge players with competent opponents. Controlled. So I wanted to obviously mention that the competent AI controlled opponents is obviously going to be a feature of immersive scenarios as well. So it's not like, hopefully this doesn't read like it's, I might just rewrite this later to make it more explicit, but hopefully it doesn't read like, so you get, you know, incompetent AI controlled opponents in immersive missions, but you get competent ones in this one. Like, hopefully that's not what it reads like, but that's something we can figure out later on. Cooperative missions challenge players with competent AI controlled opponents, which additionally serve as valuable training partners for, well, as respectable enemies in immersive levels and valuable training partners in custom maps. Its competitive environment allows for matchmaking between making in 1v1 we'll say, in addition to supporting 1v1 matchmaking, its competitive environment allows for teams of all sizes to queue into balanced matches. I don't know if I've missed anything. I don't think so, though. Cosmonarchy. Control scheme. Tests for a mixture of mechanical skill, defined as speed and accuracy, and game knowledge, defined as say general strategy and compositional design. Okay, that's a nice opener. I'll add to that later. Okay, and then finally, it's expansive. Development tools allow interested parties to produce custom content from accessory campaigns and scenarios. Well, we'll just say skirmish maps to exhaustive. We'll just say total conversions. Custom regencies and total conversions. There you go. We'll go into more detail about a lot of these individual elements later on. I'm not too worried about that, but I'll add this to the website now. We go to... I should actually put this next to that. And we should... Where's my... This is what I wanted to keep over there. Okay, so this is something where we can do the RBR. There we go. What's up, Shamble Man? Oh, then I guess I can also come down here and replace this with more coming soon. And grab the line here. Add get commit and get commit and add note about control scheme. So far I've just been working on getting a new page set up on the website, documenting a bit more about mechanics. So something that I documented was in the transport section, where I mentioned that some transports are also garrisons and allow loaded cargo to fire weapons and cast abilities without leaving the transport, which is basically just the garrison behavior. And then I also noted that players will be able to select their units while they're inside transports. In my mind, this was designed like, if you are, in the Brood War section, if you have a unit in a transport, you could left click to unload it. I was thinking right click would unload it, but left click would select it, which would allow you to like hold shift and then click a bunch of units. And then when you released shift, it would change your selection to that. And that would allow you to like say, select just a couple of those units, release shift, right click to get just those units to leave, to unload. And then, there'd probably be some sort of icon on the unit in the selection card, which would be something like a little icon that says like in transport, basically. Like the icon might be like the up arrow or something very basic to just tell you, oh yeah, your unit that you've got selected is in a transport, or this unit that you have selected is in a transport, stuff like that. And then besides that, I moved the game flow over to this new page. I added this information for the control scheme, which I will add to later on. And then I did this primer just now that I wrote. I did also document a new unit. It's not the Proxima, it's the Pavilion. This is the first kind of platform armor that you'll see, where you'll have a unit that can move through the battlefield and bring with it a large number of allies, and they're all garrisonable. But garrisonable also means that if you've loaded a building into the structure, you can then take the building and issue orders to train units. And I guess units that are trained from structures that are loaded in... So cargo structures that train units, those trained units would probably be added to the cargo, or if it was full, they would just pop out of the structure, of the transport. Which would be... I think that's probably the most intuitive way to make that happen. But if it is a garrisonable thing, then the structure could actually operate inside the transport. If it's not garrisonable, it would need to be unloaded before it could train units. Stuff like that. And then I guess if it's not garrisonable, you also wouldn't be able to load a structure that was in the middle of training. So that would absolve some cases of where you pick up a structure, or maybe it would just interrupt the training. I don't know. Maybe there's some weird abuse cases if it interrupts the training, where it's something like it's training a unit that has higher weight cost than the structure or something, because that will happen in some cases. So I don't know. We'll think about that. Maybe it won't happen. Maybe that'll always be a design tenant. I'm not sure. But I also wanted to do some planning for campaign stuff. Maybe the tutorial, the basic never played with a mouse and keyboard tutorial, and then the actual Ansifii tutorial. I wanted to document some of those ideas that I've had for a while now. So it might make some sense to... what even is this? Oh, that's an old documentation. I need to keep that open. But yeah, I was thinking of doing something like that. So maybe we do campaign. Well, I don't know. We'll say immersive. I'm wondering exactly how I did this for the Brood War one. If I go into sites, index. Okay, it's just that. Okay. I wasn't sure if that changed somehow, if it was relative to the root structure, the root thing or not. Okay, so now if we've made this page, right? This will say Cosmonarchy, immersive, scenarios are single player. Well, we could just say immersive content is single player. Single player only, I guess we could say refers to single player only content. Describes single player only content. Looks like I didn't close the P here. Nah. Well, that's not really that big of a deal, I don't think, but whatever. Okay, now we have tutorials. I guess we'll just list this one off, right? Set one Psychora. And Throw that in there. Single player only content. Usually stored. I don't know about story driven. With storytelling elements. I guess we'll say non-intrusive storytelling elements. There you go. I think that's fine as a initial thing. Get add immersive section. And then obviously what we can do here is we can go into the main thing here. We can say immersive. So we can link it here, but we should probably also have some sort of subsite thing in the table of contents that takes you there. Link to immersive. Okay, let's check this out. That did not work. Is it called something else? Did I screw it up? It's probably... Oh, it's probably this stuff where it needs to include an extra set of dots or something. Because it's in a different directory. That's what was relative. You actually. There we go. Get add get. Oh, fuck. I added it to the wrong file, of course. Fix headers. Git push. There we go. All right. It looks real ugly right now because we don't have proper, like any actual description. But that's something. I think I'll quickly slap together the, if I go to projects, Cosmonarchy. Oops. I'll grab the little sigil that I've put together here, and we'll see what happens. Text box. Yeah. Regional indicator dad, indeed. Okay. Minimize that. Now I can go to... Oh, I don't actually know how I'll look this up. It's probably possible. I'll just need a mainline link the image. Go to Frauds Club site, Cosmonarchy. Cosmonarchy, we'll call this title. Okay, and then we can go into here and say AMG SRC. So far, the only thing I've actually done this for is the birthday stuff, actually. So I'll need to copy the syntax from there. Okay, it looks like it's... first of all, it looks like there is no closing the image thing. And it's the source, the class... center block will be 50. What else was it? Equals title.png. Cosmonarchy title.png. Yeah, that should be good. Oh, but this has to actually be in... this one is good for the main page. But it will not be good for this one because it's not in the same folder. So I guess we could probably do that. Maybe it would work. Add title. Push. Let's find out. There you go. That's the title on this page. And then if we go to immersive, hey, it stays there. Cool. I'll probably soften the edges at some point, but at least we have an actual image instead of just more text. It definitely makes it a little bit easier on the eyes because your very next thing is always the primer, and then there's some other shit usually in the same breath. So not having 3 or 4 in this case is going to be much better. So that's good. All right. So we've made some stuff, made some progress. I think we can probably close out Notepad++ for now, and we can go back to working on the Ansifii. I will go into my scratch pad and make note of that. Okay, so we've done all this. Now it's time to head back to the Ansifii. Let me just close this. And let's take another look at where we're at. So yeah, I keep going back and forth on whether or not we need more options at tier 1. Probably because I had this initial thought that each tier would have an average of 10 units when congregated or aggregated. As it may now be obvious, I'm not actually sure if that will be necessary in any capacity. And, I mean, right now, we have 1, 2, 3, 4. I mean, we have 8, right? So, or we have 9, actually. 1 more would make 10. And I was actually thinking maybe we would get 1 more infantry unit or 1 more armor unit. I think the main issue with tier 1 is that the dispute feels incredibly powerful. And the soft spot feels a little weird in the context of orbital. So I have to kind of decide what I want out of orbital. I think actually one or the other would make sense to me. But I think maybe the dispute should probably be moved to tier 2. And still come out of the Omni Bay, but require the rotary. Which means you'd actually have 3 air units unlocked by tier 2. Which I think would be a neat little characteristic there, because it's actually the most units currently that you would get out of tier 2, instead of it being 2 for each, which wasn't by design. It was just how the concepts worked together. And that would also free me up more space to go, if I wanted to work in another infantry unit, another armor unit, into either tier 1 or 2. And then I'm kind of thinking, with the Ansifii specifically, I guess I'm kind of conceptualizing tiers 1 and 2 almost like one tier, even though they obviously aren't. But the in-between tiers, the even tiers, are a little bit easier to tech into. And then the odd tiers are more giant leaps in technology, where you're going to also need to overhaul your infrastructure. In addition to paying a much higher upfront sum. Like the weather vane for tier 3 is 400 magmite, 600 hypervials. Like that's nothing special. Not nothing special, right? It's a decent amount of cash. And then obviously the ministry itself is... that's it. I think I'd never updated this cost, actually, because I was going to say this is probably going to be more like, 1K of each resource minimum, probably. Whereas, like, you look at this... And like the structure that unlocks tier 3 is actually cheaper than or more expensive rather than the structure that unlocks tier 4, because tier 4 isn't a legit tier in the same sense. So the odd tiers are meant to be massive, like significantly more impactful general unlocks for the Ansifii, and the even tiers are meant to be specializing on top of that. So you're basically taking what you already have and adding specialty to it without needing to overhaul all of it. Which is why you see like a new production facility every other tier. with a new tech structure for that production facility in the subsequent tier. So that's the formula that I've sort of developed so far. And to me, it just makes the most sense overall. I think when you consider like trying to come up with a guiding principle for each one of the various tech tiers, I think this just makes sense. What's up, roller skates? You actually. Well, I just finished setting up a new page on the website for Cosmonarchy, and now the Brood War mod is in a separate directory now. Beyond that, I noted some stuff about transports. The most notable that you'll be able to select units inside your transport. The idea that so far I've come up with is if you hold shift and then left click a bunch of times, it will give you access to, it'll select all of those units. And when you release shift, it'll actually change your selection. And then obviously this will also carry through when you recall a control group that's not going to remove the units that are in transport. You can actually select them all. However, this will be probably prone to fair amounts of user error, because I think maybe right click, I don't know, like maybe this will be an option where you can take right click orders and disable them for units that are in transports, but like make it so that they don't do anything. That way you could still right click to, attack a specific unit or move in a direction or whatever without unloading all of, like, force unloading units or whatever. I'm not sure, but yeah, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be very interesting. Anyway, I basically noted some stuff over here about units being able to be issued selected, and if it's a garrisonable unit, if it's a garrisonable transport, units can fire, they can cast spells, they can complete orders, and that'll be how we have mobile production facilities. Basically, like the concept that I came up with for the Ansifii just earlier today was the pavilion. I did this on stream earlier, and it's a very powerful sort of accessory unit, very expensive as you can see by the cost, but it brings with it enough weight capacity to carry structures, units, that sort of thing. Like I think production facilities are probably going to be, their weight is probably going to be fairly accessible, actually, for being relocated. You'll also probably get players, and this will be a legit strategy at some point for Ansifii specifically, but probably like all players at some point, where if they have a garrisonable transport with the weight capacity to actually move structures, specifically if it's garrisonable, then a tech structure will still provide its benefit, right? If it's not garrisonable, I think it'll temporarily disallow it. So if you have a transport that's not garrisonable and you pick up your like tier 10 tech structure, you're not going to actually benefit from tier 10 tech. Like you won't be able to build it again or access stuff for it again until it's landed, until it's unloaded, which is something I was actually planning on doing for Brood War, for Cosmonarchy Brood War. Although I actually could do that now that I think about it. I was planning on doing it for Terran, where if they lift it off the engineering bay, then you don't get access to tier 2 until it's landed. I could actually do that now because we have custom requirements, but I just don't really see much of a value in doing that, especially with the AI always breaking and lifting off their shit anyway. So wouldn't be very hilarious errors as a result of that. Anyway, the point I was trying to make there is that you would actually have Ansifii like get one of their end game tech things, their massive platforms that crawls around the map, and you would just build like an entire base on there, or load an entire base on there, basically. Like pretty good stuff, I think. Like just like, oh, you trying to snipe my tech? Well, it's now inside this, unit that has 10k health. Bye. It's like, fuck you, dude. Good luck. So yeah, it's just me musing on some of the interesting things. But what I was talking about specifically when you joined the stream was just Ansifii tech, the way that it's playing out, and how I plan to move the dispute to tier 2. And I was actually thinking about maybe taking the path sign and moving it to tier 1, but it is a little bit more powerful than maybe that would make sense. The motive, on the other hand, might work okay. Ha! Implying we'll have larva. Noob. My replacement mechanic for larva is just going to be... basically like... What would you call it? There's going to be slots on a structure where the structure will be able to gestate eggs. And so I think your default will probably actually be 2 instead of 3. Because you're not... The slot is occupied for as long as the unit is being trained in it. So it's actually a buff for low time cost units. You can train them more often because you're not waiting for larva to regen. But you don't have to worry. Like, the eggs will be able to be targeted manually. So you can snipe a specific egg if you want. But yeah, I'm not sure about that one. I also feel like the egg will probably be called like the unit that it's becoming or something. Either that, or you'll be able to see what unit is being trained within it when you detect something, which I still haven't actually noted on the website, but detection will work like it was initially planned to work in the Brood War mod, where if we go to global changes for detection energy and abilities, this stuff, specifically allied units and detected enemy units, all vanilla abilities. Well, okay, it's just these two things here I have to note somewhere. I guess I can quickly do that, actually. I find vision. Yeah, I think... I'm not sure how different they will look. I think some of them will definitely... Like, it might be that... you know how I have the plans, obviously, for the Ansifii, for example, to require, like, different tiers of production structures? Like, the captaincy is required for tier 3 infantry to be trained. It might be that units of certain sizes require egg slots that are actually bigger, and that those egg slots could be filled up with smaller eggs. So, like, each egg would have a weight assigned to it. And so, like, they would basically inherit the weight of the unit that you're training. And so maybe, like, the egg weight capacity for, like, default structure would be, like, 4, or something like that, you know, instead of being 2. And then you could put either like 4, you could queue up either 4 1-weight units, or you could queue up 2 2-weight units. And that would be your initial stuff. And so the eggs would actually be, they would have a weight associated with them, and that weight would be inheriting from the unit that's spawning it, is my thinking. So the egg weight is equivalent to the unit that's gestating within the egg, the weight of that unit. So if you have like an ultra core or something, some equivalent to that, where it's, I think there's 6 transport space, or no, they're 4. I was thinking supply. So their weight would probably be something like 6 instead of 4, because we're a little bit more free with what we can do, obviously, with everything, but specifically with transports and weight. And so you would need a structure that has enough egg weight capacity to support something like that. And so, like, that would be another reason to evolve your hatcheries, because you actually don't have enough egg slot space for some of the higher tier units. And then, obviously, that's a reason to, like, snipe those particular structures, because those are the ones pumping out the most scary units, right? So you can kind of see where I'm going with this, where it's a system that can reinforce itself pretty well, I think. Obviously, this is initially designed for the Orlithrae, and it will probably be a unique mechanic to them. So I don't think we have to worry about it, like any edge cases that are downstream of other regencies. But it's something that I might think about, like maybe a similar mechanic, or even the same mechanic, could be used in like sparingly in other regencies. But I think for this is a similar conversation I had on stream with Knight of the Realm, actually, probably 2 streams ago, so 4 days ago, when I was discussing the idea of, like, he was asking me if there would be units from other regencies or technology from other regencies inside, like, say, the Ansifii. And I was thinking that, like, the experiment I made in the Brood War Cosmonarchy, where you have, like, shared units, like the cohort, it was nice because you got to see, you basically got, like, the unit limit was contributing to this. You had 1 unit, but it was worth 2 units because it was used by multiple races. And then the other thing was that you got to see, like, a unit roll, a combat roll, being used differently depending on the other combat roles, the composition you could build around it, depending on what race you were. And I thought that was a really interesting experiment. But at the end of the day, I feel like it's better to just have similar combat roles, but completely different unit identities in terms of like audio visuals and stuff. Like this is a Keltar unit as opposed to an Ansifii unit, even if they do similar things. I think that's way better, generally speaking, than having literally a Keltar unit in the Ansifii registrar. Obviously, there will be a specific couple of exceptions to this. The Ember Seat are going to be carrying over a lot of reinforcements, a lot of mercenaries, guns for hire from all sorts of different regencies, but they will be their own units. They'll be like mercenary types of those units, and like the Keltar will probably be disgraced because they murdered another Keltar, right? They committed Keltracon. So like stuff like that is, oh, okay, there's a reason for them to be different and now be serving this. You're not literally buying another race's unit. You're getting a custom unit that is unique to you, but just happens to be from another regency, which is perfect for the Ember Seat, because the whole idea is that they're just this weird melting pot where they take samples from all sorts of different regencies. So, yeah, basically the thrust of it is, I think it makes a lot of sense to keep mechanics of individual regencies very specific and very unique. So if there is something that's unique, like add-ons or liftoff, or in this case, the egg slot thing, it's probably best to just have it be on one thing. Now, some things are a little bit more ubiquitous, like, okay, if you have liftoff on multiple regencies, it probably isn't the end of the world. But I think add-ons is a little bit more far-reaching, the way that I would implement it, that I wouldn't want something like that to be dedicated to multiple regencies. I would want that to be dedicated to one, and really delve into that mechanic and make that like a defining characteristic of the regency. Whereas like structures moving around is not really going to be a massive outlier, I think. So it kind of depends on how far-reaching the implications of implementing a specific mechanic actually are. So with that spiel out of the way, let's talk more units. Let's talk more stuff. So obviously I want to move the dispute to tier 2. The question in the back of my mind is always, do we add more units that the town centers can train that are non-combatants? This would be stuff like, there was a time where in Cosmonarchy Brood War, you could train witnesses and envoys, the observer and shuttle for vanilla players, from the Nexus alongside your worker. And that was how you actually did that. So you were interrupting your worker flow, and it was a decision you made to get some utility out of a unit. I think the balance has to be struck a little bit carefully there, because you have to basically say, either you have enough town, like if a unit is so popular and needs to be spammed to be useful, which I would say the soft spot probably does, that would not be a great fit for something like a town center. My thinking is maybe the dispute being moved to the town center actually helps balance the unit, because then you have something where this unit is, if you could just keep building it with no issues besides the resource cost associated with it, if there wasn't a further opportunity cost of what other units you could be building, if it's just like some light fighters or something, that doesn't really feel like it's massively impactful in this case. So I think it actually makes a lot of sense to move the dispute to tier 2, require the dispatch, and be trained from town centers. And then you're interrupting your economy to get this very powerful scouting tool. So that makes a lot of sense. It's an oddball type unit. It's not like supportive. I mean, it's a utility type unit, right? But it doesn't really fit with what I would want the other units of Orbital to look like. So that's basically what I'm thinking right now. Now, the other thing that I have to think about too is like, does it make sense to just give healer and basic fighter at tier 1 for Orbital? I think it does, because tier 1, even tier 2 to a lesser extent, it's supposed to be all about infantry. These early tiers, all of the tiers are meant to be all about infantry, and everything else that you train is like meant to reinforce the idea that you're using infantry, and these things are really helpful for infantry, right? So like, for example, the Roadhog can only load in a couple of units into itself, right? The Roadhog has 4 weight capacity, so it can't load too many units in. It can load in like 4 of these basic units, or 2 gauges, right? Because gauges are 2 weight. But the main thrust of the Roadhog is that you actually have this unit that moves fairly fast that you can use to just transport and dump a bunch of like infantry that themselves move much slower than the troop transport does. And that's where a lot of its power comes from. That's where a lot of its like why you would be spending money on it. And that's why it's supportive in nature, because it's not very powerful itself. It can kind of fend early attacks off or whatever. And its mobility is a great factor as well. It'll probably result in its hit points being dropped. But yeah, that's one of those things that I think makes a bit of sense there. Okay. Let's take this opportunity to actually move our stuff around. Let's close this. Let's go to, where are we? We're moving to dispute. We'll say created by quarry and treasury. And then we will go to requirement and say Ansifii be dispatch. Ah, dispatch dispute. It was there all along. I had no idea. And then we'll say tier category 0, tier 2, suborder 0, and then go to quarry and add Ansifii you dispute. I guess we can try, since it's by tier and not by class, we can do that. That's fine. And then go to treasury and do the same thing. And then go to dispatch and say enables Ansifii you dispatch, and then go to Omnibay and say trains not a dispute. Aurora soft spot, that's some motive, that's fine. Okay, I think we got everything. Move dispute to tier 2 infra. You may very well be correct. Let's find out. Requires dispatch, train from quarry and treasury. Treasury highlights it, quarry highlights it, which means it's trained here. Omnibay does not train it. No, I don't see any issues. I think maybe you got some stuff mixed up, actually. Oh, that's what I got mixed up. I guess I owned myself. Ha, that's why. Get owned. That's the commit message. It's almost like you yourself are a dispute. That's crazy. I look forward to probably in the next stream, 2 days from now, working on some dedicated documentation about the different campaigns. That'll be nice. All right, I actually did set that to wait. Yeah, observance is our version of detector because I'm so committed to removing action verbs from my text that I even removed that. I just think it sounds cooler, to be honest. I actually do have some action verbs in weapon names, but I can't remember where they are. Beasthorn! Beasthorn might actually be what Roadhog turns into as far as a name goes. That's pretty funny. Wait, did I get rid of the action verbs? I have to have, yeah, Volt Thrower, there's one. Stagger. A lot of these are like stuff I'll figure out later on. Grandstand. That's a pretty good one. Wait, the Mason shouldn't have the grandstand. That's the Cardinal. Yeah, these are swapped, actually. Architect won't be grandstand. Oh, no, Architect as being nail hand is probably fine, but grandstand needs to be renamed. Looper. Now that's an action verb. Oh, I never named the one for the nebula. Shatterglass. I don't know if that counts, actually. Does that count as an action verb? Because it has shatter in it, but... One who shats, yeah. Yeah, I guess it's not because that's just verb. It's not action verb, right? So stagger is not action verb. It's just verb. So maybe it's safe. I'm so used to looking at ER and thinking, bleh! So I will admit I didn't actually think about it. What was I going to rename again? Let's close all this shit. That's my one complaint about Visual Studio Code is that, like, I just need a GUI editor for this, to be honest. It's so fucking annoying to keep track of everything. And then some guy in my chat just owns me by saying that I fucked something up and I don't believe him, and then I did. Jesus Christ. I was going to do the Nebula name. That's what I was missing. Okay. So yeah, I guess that really the only legit action verbs are the looper and the volt thrower. Some of them are still kind of generic or whatever, but at least there's something. What? Oh. I have to look up. Is it actually with an N? Ah, I added an N. I can't even look at myself in the mirror. I can never remember which one it is, to be honest. Great. Oh yeah, the gauge should definitely have like at least one base armor, to be honest. I still can't believe. I was just thinking, like, this is basically a power fist, right? I still can't believe that there are so many cases of like the fact that it's even called power fist in Warhammer 40k is like hilarious to me. I find that very funny. Oh shit, it is he who has no name. Hello? Dude, I'm jiving. What is this? This is Sewer Wars by Irving Force. That's what I'm listening to right now. Some rad tunes. All right, we need to jump into the captaincy and say that it also trains. Oh, yeah. We never added the Maverick. Right. Get, commit, add, gauntlet, get, push, get, add. I also have to jump into the gauge. I didn't do this earlier. Gauge. Successor. Ansifii, you, gauntlet. Oop, gauntlet. And then this is predecessor. Ansifii, you, gauge. Okay. We got ourselves something that still says gauge because I didn't change the name. There you go. Oh, it doesn't. I didn't even give it a description either. What's the gauge description? Disruptive infantry. Oh yeah, and it doesn't actually have a passive either. Whatever. Leave it as it is. Could you imagine like a unit that just walks up and fucking I don't know, I just imagine like sort of electrifying attack that when the unit, like it's a tag that when the unit dies, it shocks. Oh no, maybe, okay, this is a better idea. This is a much better idea. Hold on. I've had an idea. Did you know? Gauntlet passive. Well, I'll leave turning alive. That's fine. Oh, it's just still called arrival. That's funny. Gauge. Let's grab an icon for it. Let's also grab an icon for... There was an icon for something that I wanted to do as well. I guess we just do 355. That's fine. But yeah, I wanted to go down to the pavilion cannon, and I wanted to change the icon to something more appropriate. Get commit, add gauntlet ability. There we go. Where is IR to us so I can look at it? Oh, I guess that would be the repute or one of them. IR is infantry. So I is infantry, R is rifle, 2S refers to how many shots. It doesn't actually result in a factor change most of the time because it's like the Maverick in Cosmonarchy Brood War or just in the Marine in regular Brood War, where he's shooting like, it sounds like he's shooting 2 or 3 times. That's basically the idea, is that's what the audio will sound like in some sense, but it's not there as an audio note, right? It's just there as like the way that it works. So like in this case, it's infantry, pistol, 1S, single shot, binoc. That's what the Waylay uses. The gauge has infantry, handheld, 2 shot, because he's got two hands. He fucking hits you with 2 hands, both hands. And apprentice is B is base, because I didn't want to use I for infrastructure. I already have infrastructure fucking... this might just be V instead for vehicle, or it might be I for infantry. I think I'll probably change it over. But it's H handheld, 2S is double bite, it's got 2 drills, so... Squire is VR, vehicle rifle, double shot. Roadhog is vehicle rifle, triple shot, stuff like that. So yeah, there is a reason for it. So basically there's like the military call sign, if you will, or the equipment call sign, and then there's the nickname that was given, which is kind of like, I tried to do the style of my Fraud Strike CSGO conversion where I named a bunch of stuff like, you know, Pavilion, not to be confused with the actual Pavilion, but stuff like that, you know? O is obviously orbital. That might change to like F for fighter or something, I'm not sure. M is missile. B is beam. C is cannon. X is utility. Or extra, miscellaneous. Yeah. It's kind of confusing because you might not know why there's like a 1S, 2S, 3S or whatever until you actually look at the in-game and hear it. Or see it visually as well. But that's to basically give the sense that there's like a full auto or at least like semi-auto burst fire type armaments being used by the infantry. Because if it was full auto, like there will be some full auto like chain gunner type enemies, right? That are just like mowing down with like almost no, like basically no cooldown whatsoever, just like perpetually feeds them, feeds the ammo, right? Maybe they would like build up heat or something after a certain point. Maybe we could represent that with energy, where they, as their energy decreases, that's like the closer they become to, what do you call it? Oh, that's perfect, actually. So you remember we were looking at the Thunderhead, Veek and I, off stream, and the supercharge passive where it gives them energy equal to damage dealt is like kind of wacky because why would you use that? But if you're attacking your own chain gunner and he's using energy as ammo, as a sort of commensurate to ammo thing, you're actually like feeding him ammo. So if you can keep him alive and you can attack him with supercharge shit, he's just sat there fucking mowing down people forever. That's a good combo, right? Then you're like, you are incurring damage, but... Yeah, well, the Pavilion is 500 HP and 20 armor. That might be too much, to be honest. But yeah. I was actually thinking that the Roadhog is probably going to get like... Because it's mobility, it's probably going to get like 1 armor, but like 100 health or something instead of 150. There's just some things that you think about after you've like started working with the systems more. It'll be a lot easier to like... I'll basically just kind of know intuitively based on how I put the units together. When we actually have them in game and they're like flying around or whatever, running around. So that'll be pretty nice. I guess we still haven't figured out what we want to do about acceleration and deceleration. So in Wikipad, really quick, I will note that that's a mechanic to note down. Okay. And then I guess this can probably be just the stopping point for the stream for now, because I've been going for about 2.5. 250. It's actually 230. So we'll say, what do we got here? We obviously want to keep doing this. We'll say note Cosmonarchy control scheme. And then we can say, I probably won't do until my next design stream. Dev stream is what I'll put here. And then the other thing that I'll do at some point is yeah, I'm not actually, but the thing is, if it's a subtle thing, then I don't know if it even has any place. We'll have to see how air units and other hover type units feel when they don't have that acceleration. Does it feel right for fighters, for example, to instantly jerk up to their desired movement speed immediately? Because I agree that there is that issue with where it doesn't actually feel good in any capacity, right? So Monarchy campaign tutorial. We'll just say immersive planning. I'll just keep working on this. Technically, I did a tier 6 unit today, but whatever. It's not that big of a deal. I'll do that too. Move that up there. All right, so I'll do this tomorrow, and then yeah, this will be what we do. Some of what we do anyway on the stream next time. Cool shit. IMO. Let me just push my git commit rebalance. Road hog. How is mount not a okay owned? Yeah. Agreed. I just search synonym for mount. Haven't heard of cantilever before. Oh, it's like arch. Okay. Not really the same thing. I did think about calling it Beast Horn, but I'm not actually sure if I like that. What's up, Night of the Realm? Yeah, I wasn't really looking to name it mount. I was just looking for something that has some synonyms or something. Because I was gonna call it steed or something, but it feels a little too plain, even for such a unit. Tier 1. Could call it the road trip. That's a name. Ansifii road trip. I don't know, man. I know that sounds very goofy to most people probably, but to me, I kind of like that. That's kind of like, oh, you got some character. Like soft spot, you know? Road trip. I don't know, man. That might be a thing. That I'm not sure if that's too Earth-centric or not, because that's obviously a term in common parlance, but it's better than road hog, I think. I don't know. We'll go with that for now, even if we change it again later. Although Beasthorn then doesn't make much sense because there's no more bestial connection or whatever, but whatever. All right, we'll go to Road Hog. I'll have to rename this. Beasthorn can just be some other name later on. I'll note that down. Beasthorn. Mount my ISO file exactly. Things are pretty good. We got a fair amount of progress done today. We made the new Cosmonarchy page and did some concepts for the gauntlet, the pavilion, renamed some units, or not. I don't think we renamed any units besides this one. But, you know, we just fucked around with some concepts. I wrote down some ideas about the naming conventions in general. And, yeah, we're looking pretty good at this point, I think. Like, this is starting to look a little bit like the Terran page, right? The Terran page is more dense. But, like, I remember looking at this, and partially because the icons are very similar. They're all the same, from the same sources. But I remember looking at this and taking a second to realize this was the Ansifii one, like, the other day. I was thinking that. I was like, oh, that's pretty interesting. Yeah. So, yeah. I don't know, man. Nothing's really coming to me about the name. I guess we'll just go with what's that term when you it's like cracking a whip on a beast of burden or something that's like a actually what's the term pilot I don't know what you'd even call this. It's like what the term for somebody who is driving a stagecoach. Let me see if I can figure out. Stagecoach driver. There's no name for them? Whatever. We'll call it the driveway. There you go. Done. Sometimes when I'm trying to name this stuff, yeah, a lashing is like when you're cracking the whip, but I was trying to think about the person who's actually doing it. Like if there's a fancy name for them. Yep. Oh, I have to go into this and go into... This needs to be renamed file-wise. Road trip. And then in the fulcrum structure, I need to go into here and change it to road trip as well. Road hog to road trip. There we go, road trip. Done. Up next, we'll have Beasthorn, Herald, I don't know, something like that for the next set of transports. I don't know. We'll see. Oh yeah, the other thing, a general topic of discussion before I go, as a bit of a wrap up here. I keep thinking about this, right? And like the stuff at tier 2, stuff at tier 1, generally speaking, is going to have some sort of sequel, right? Like the Gauge has now has a sequel to the Gauntlet, right? It has a sequel that is the Gauntlet. It's a predecessor to it. There's obviously going to be Hot Shot to Maverick. We've got Waylay, which will have a sequel eventually. So you get these units, and generally they will have sequels. Like I actually think the Nebula, considering it's another rifled air unit, it's probably not that much of a stretch to go from Aurora to Nebula. I think it's probably fine to have. They're even kind of named similarly in a way where it's something to do with the cosmos, although Aurora is a bit more domestic. We're kind of going like further up, you know? Maybe Nebula is actually too I think I even said this when I named this unit. Nebula might be too powerful for the unit that this is. So maybe we would say something else. I don't know. Satellite. Some synonym for satellite. That sounds pretty good. Maybe. I don't know. We'll think about that. But the point is, there's going to be plenty of sequels, right? But so far, all of the sequels are from tier 1 to tier 2. And then we have Constable and Intendant, and we have Strong Arm Thunderhead. But I'm not sure if that's always going to be the case, right? I'm actually not sure if there's always going to be a sequel to, like, there's going to be a sequel to the Cutlass probably because it's just a very common, like, it's an artillery unit, right? So it's a very common role. But will there be a sequel to Anchor, a heavily armored garrisonable vehicle? Probably, but will it be a tier 4 or will it be later on? Like, does it have to be every other that we're getting an upgrade? When do we introduce completely new unit roles? And that's something that I still haven't solved yet. But I do think that stuff like that will be interesting. Like the path sign. Okay, I'm not sure if there will ever be a case where a unit exists and it doesn't have some lineage either before or after it. I think maybe you will always have at least one sequel to a unit, if I had to guess. But I'm not 100% sure. Like that might not actually be the case. That's something that we have to figure out over time. And as Vic mentions, we have to have the balance between simplicity and complexity. And yeah, Knight of the Realm, there will be a unit that like starts a new lineage, right? A lot of them are actually like that. Like the Proxima doesn't have it's a tier 3 unit and it doesn't have, it's not a sequel to anything, right? So that's something we got to think about. What's up, Keza Makes Beats? Thanks for the follow. So yeah, we're thinking about all this stuff when we're designing these tech tiers. We're trying to figure out like ways to have those things come in, right? Like a bunch of units are going to be like the Cloudburst is an example of another example. Like this unit has nothing remotely similar to it in tier 1 or 2. And you know, stuff like that. I think maybe the Squire, we probably do want a tier 3 hovercraft, or at least like maybe it doesn't get another sequel or a successor. It doesn't get anything like that until maybe tier 4 or 5. Like that could be possible. Again, it doesn't have to be every other, right? And also something that I've already started to play around with is the combat roles can start to shift. Like the role of the Aurora and the role of the Nebula, they are kind of the same in that they're just a fighter or a small craft or whatever that goes through and smashes some stuff. But like it's just a general purpose fighter, right? But you're starting to see a shift towards something that's heavier hitting and fires less frequently. Like that's going to be something that happens, right? This is a 0.6. The Nebula is actually an upgrade over that. It's 0.5, but that might change, right? It's also, it says 3S, but it's a factor of 1. I don't know if that will change either. That would obviously have an impact on whether or not like are you shifting towards more armor penetrating as a role as opposed to just being a general fighter. And then how long does that lineage last? When do you just get replaced by something completely different that has a completely different combat role? How do we start segueing that in? So this will never be like Age of Empires because you can at any point get rocked back to tier 1 if your sequel structures all die, right? If your tech structures all end up dying. That's always a possibility, right? The other thing that I was thinking about, and I might as well change this now that I've remembered it, is that if I go to the quarry, I think it's probably better that we don't bother with the quarry enabling anything, because tier 1 tech shouldn't require a tech structure in my opinion. So I think we go to Reservoir and we just like, okay, this is already done that way. What else do we have? We had Sightline. I don't know if that one was set to require the quarry. It was. And then what else did we have? We have gallery that I know I set up. Fulcrum is like that. We'll just fix that right now. Gallery, fix that. And then Omnibay is the other one that has this. There you go. So we'll get rid of that. That way we have a very consistent system. Remove tier 1 requirement. Git push. Their tier differences are just slight stat boosts. I don't think that is going to be the case, because even if they don't have any abilities different or anything like that, the stat boosts that are there, or the stat changes, I should say, that are there, because sometimes you might get less attack speed. But, you know, armor pen is a huge stat now. The fact that you have higher range would probably be a massive stat, especially for Ansifii specifically. Like, so far, the hot shot into Maverick is not that much of a change, but it goes from 2 shots to 1 shot, and it gets 3 armor pen, more damage, more range, and shoots slightly slower. And this is a case where, like, you're also getting 2 armor and 15 bonus health. And I guess 1 bonus range. That stuff is like, it isn't really that much of a change, but in your head when you're looking at the stats. But suddenly this unit can just contend with units that the other unit could never even dream of contending. So it still will feel very different, and you'll be especially you'll take note of this difference when you are stuck on hotshots and can't train Mavericks, and you're up against something that you might need to do armor pen on. So that'll be when it becomes really obvious, and it's something that you definitely will want to tech into. Or maybe you just need a little bit more range to kite, you know what I mean? Then I also haven't documented speed, for example, yet. I don't know if maybe hotshots will actually move faster than Mavericks or not. I'm suspecting they might, but I'm not sure. So there's a lot of things that will like stats themselves can change an entire combat role, an entire feel for how a unit is controlled, even if they are, you know, supposedly a sequel or a prequel, predecessor or successor. And that, you know, you don't need to incorporate in like a new ability or something like that, is all I was saying. But you should still expect some changes, right? So, you know, the gauge, it's not going to move as fast as the gauntlet. The gauntlet's going to be a little bit more self-sufficient in that sense. And the gauntlet's really powerful. It's got 4 armor. Like, this thing's not fucking around, right? It's got 4 armor from 1 armor, right? That's a 3 armor buff. It's got this root, where as soon as it hits you, you're frozen, which allows the rest of the armor to catch up if you're giving chase. You've got the fact that it just deals more damage. It has 10 armor pen. Like, this unit is meant to get in the thick of it. So there's a lot about the stats and the change from slowing to rooting that's like building on the same unit identity, but still feels very different in practice. Yeah, the heavier infantry being faster than the light infantry. I mean, you can chalk that up to just like turbo-powered, you know, leg servos or something. So it's not really that weird, I don't think, from a conceptual standpoint. But I guess intuitively, when you first use it, you're like, wait, why is this guy moving faster? We would need to make sure that the animations in that case look more like they're taking longer strides or something, you know what I mean? Because maybe they are in a bigger, heavier exosuit of some sort that takes care of that for them. I mean, the late game Ansifii infantry is going to be more like, you know, it's going to start going away from guy in an exosuit to guy in a walker. Although I am a little unsure about that one, because there's going to be other regencies that use walkers. But I really like the idea of like your late game infantry being men in walkers that are really tall. You know what I mean? Like that's actually kind of interesting. And still classing them as infantry specifically. Like, they're not armor. You don't build them out of a factory or something. You build them out of a barracks type structure, which I think makes a lot of sense. Not only does it make sense, but it feels unique to Ansifii, where you're going to have like walkers and other mechs next to vehicles, like next to armor, next to stuff that's a little bit more like a vehicle, like what you would train out of the Terran factory, to use a more conventional term. You're going to have stuff that's more like that. Like, you would basically be training a Goliath out of a barracks for the Ansifii. That's like the kind of vibe that they give up. Look at Battletech armor. Okay, I will wicked pad that. Stiff it in. Look. Roller skates. Says look at Battletech armor. There you go. Yeah. I mean, they're not always just going to go bigger is better. There's going to be some that are like more nimble and maybe even regress in size. I don't think anything will be smaller than the tier 1 infantry, but you might go like tier 1 to tier 3 is generally bigger. And then at tier 5, you get some that don't increase in size, or maybe go back a little bit towards the tier 1 size or something. Oh, it's battle armor. Jesus. Well, whatever. It's fine. There you go. I did it. All right. I think that will do it for our stream today. We're getting a lot of really epic ideas and smashing some stuff. Got some pretty good progress. We only made 2 units today, but we also shuffled the dispute. We renamed the road trip. We got some stuff taken care of in that respect, and we took out some. We took care of some work over here, right? We have this page now where we can actually read game flow, control scheme, all that stuff that's unique to this particular game, and eventually we will expand this to actually document more information about the tutorials and the Psychora campaign and all that stuff. So I'm looking forward to doing some more work on that. I probably won't touch the campaign stuff until a stream 2 days from now. And Veek is probably going to do a development stream tomorrow. So keep your eyes peeled for that. I will post about it in the Manifestod, which is in the Discord server. And you can react in the Constabulary channel. I think it's the crow emoji, but you'll see it in there that if you want to be pinged when we go live with the development stream. If you want to be pinged on Discord. So reminder there. And if you're not in the Discord server, you should probably fix that. There's a link in the description. And I guess we will leave it at that. Cheers, boys. Thanks for hanging. Thanks for frauding. And as usual, expect me in 2 more days where we bang out some more concepts, we get some more progress, and we get a little bit closer to having an actual game day by day. Bye.